Just ask towards the camera, but we'll hear it then.
All right, so I have another question for Richard Hoagland. I read your book, Monuments on Mars, and that was the book, right? Okay. Because it was such a long time ago. And I totally resonate with what you said, and if we're going to raise awareness, we actually just need physical, hard evidence that can't be denied. That everyone can say, okay, there it is, we know it's there. And when we had the pictures of the face on Mars in '78, you know, then 10 years later, NASA comes back with what they say, oh, it was just shadows and light, and it doesn't look like it just looks like a mountain. So with our technology now, with the HD camera, high definition technology we have and satellite imagery that we have now, has anyone, to your knowledge, does anyone have had plans to go back and take real HD high resolution pictures of this face so we can actually have physical hard proof? That, sure.
Lyn and then Richard. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Richard.
Josh, thank you, Michael.
I was there at that time, and at the time that photograph was taken, we had satellites that could read your license plate from 250 miles up, and you can't see a mountain? Come on.
I agree with Lyn. Look, all of the images you're seeing from space, from NASA, from the other agencies, they're tinkered with. If you look at the specs, I mean, you could go to Mars and be in orbit and take better pictures with your iPhone. Seriously. Than you're seeing in these. They are so damn fuzzy, and I work with them, she can tell you, 24/7. So I know that they're being de-resed. They're making it so it's always on the edge of credibility. And as long as that official policy is maintained, and as long as there is an official policy not to comment, not to hold a press conference, and so many people in our society are waiting for the president, or waiting for the head of NASA, or waiting for, what's his name, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, or waiting for the Prime Minister of, who knows where, to come out and officially give them permission to think the unthinkable, nothing's going to change. Again, the internet is our salvation, because what I'm looking at, and I monitor a lot of conversations, for instance, in this latest mission, the Curiosity mission, there is so much astonishing actual evidence of ancient artifacts and machinery and junk and buildings and ruins and unearthed stuff built by somebody that the rover has photographed, and they gleefully put all over the web, but unless they comment, most people don't seem to give themselves permission to say, well, that looks like gearing, or that looks like clockwork, or that looks like an engine, or that looks like a wall. Somehow we seem to need official permission to think the logical, which is you don't get that kind of geometry in nature. I'm working on a major paper that I'm hoping to have finished in a couple weeks when I do a full show, which is going to be 4 hours, devoted to what NASA is really photographing during the Curiosity mission. Cross your fingers I can get it finished in time. The bigger issue is we need to take control of the conversation. Like that great line in Close Encounters, we need to take control of this conversation. And our antidote to official secrecy and cover-up and fuzzy pictures is the internet, and the demand for more and more honesty and better images. What I'm seeing seems to be a two-tier practice, which is the high-level people are basically keeping disclosure at bay. The lower-level people are putting stuff out in a kind of a, what's that, there's a specific term, and I can't think what it is. It's called plausible deniability. That's what it is. They are putting the information out there, but there are no fingerprints. We have to bring our own intelligence to these images, and we have to make the decision. Now, if you want some really interesting images of the face that are the most remarkable and clearest and most positive, Don't look at NASA imagery. Look at the ESA imagery from a scientist out of Germany named Newcomb from the Mars Express spacecraft. Google is your friend, even though it's reporting to the NSA. It still is your friend because they're giving you data, and you have to use the data under your own guidance to force the truth into the open. But Google, Newcomb, Mars imagery, Cydonia, Mars Express, and take a look at those images of Cydonia. You will be amazed in color at what you're going to see.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Linda?
I can add a brief comment. Back when the face in Cydonia first was released, I went down to the university where Michael Malin, who is responsible for the orbiter around Mars, had file drawers of all of these photographs. And he wanted to convince me that, in fact, this original, very clear, to me, monumental sculpture on Mars was a trick of light and shadow, which was the, we'll call it the formal government answer at that time. Shortly after I saw Malin and saw the original, I went to Boston to the Analytical Sciences Corporation, where a man named Mark Carlotto was basically separating tanks from trees for the Department of Defense on computers. And he had me go into a room where they had to have red lights and everybody had to clear desks, and they had all of this top secret classified to get me even to in front of a computer. And he said, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to bring up for you, and it was a screen about this big, the Cydonia face, and I just want to know what your reaction was. And after a minute or two of whatever was happening in this very advanced computer lab at that time in the early 80s, this face came up. And the part I wanted to tell you is it was so detailed that there was a thin line going across and a thin line, and there were clearly the horizontal that we have seen in Egypt for such a long time. The eye on the, not the collapsed side, but the eye on the full side had a pupil, an iris, and a white. I'm not saying in color, but you could definitely see those three parts. And there were, here in the mouth area, facing me on that computer screen, were teeth. The teeth had lines. And I was so startled. I was not prepared for anything that vivid and that clear. And I felt and said to him, it is as if I am looking at a monumental sculpture that was made with the intent of warning off. And I have never changed that feeling. But have any of you anywhere on this planet seen a photograph with those details of the face on Mars? No.
Richard and
But not in the public.
not in the public.